Cavaliers coach J.B. Bickerstaff has a tall task ahead of him. His job has been on the line since Cleveland's disappointing loss in the 2023 NBA playoffs. And while he steered the Cavs away from disaster back in December and helped spark the best 18-game stretch in franchise history, JB once again finds himself on the hot seat, and only a successful trip to the playoffs will cool it down. For some people, a conference finals berth is the bar Cleveland needs to clear, and no one will feel satisfied if they can't get out of the first round this year. But how far the Cavaliers go is one thing. The way in which JB coaches them down the stretch is an entirely different matter. Blame will be placed on the players if they fail to perform, but JB will be canned before the final buzzer sounds if he doesn't put them in a position to get the job done. One of the most pressing concerns that has been on everyone's mind is the Cavaliers' rotations. Finding the right buttons to press is basically everything a coach is supposed to do, and throughout JB's tenure in Cleveland, fans have questioned if he has the right feel for which levers need to be pulled. We can look at last season as an example, when Cedi Osman played just 79 total possessions with the core four all throughout the regular season. But come playoff time, the need for another shooter on the floor was so obvious, Cedi was suddenly playing long stretches next to the starters, nearly matching his time spent with them from the regular season in just 5 playoff games. This lack of lineup continuity no doubt played a factor in their disjointed looking offense, and compare this to Lamar Stevens, who JB stubbornly tried to slot next to the starters for more than 300 possessions last season, but did not share the floor with them even once in the playoffs. The decision to combine Cedi with the rest of the core should have been made months ago, because of how clear it was the Cavaliers would need his floor spacing abilities against better teams, but JB stuck to his plan and was only forced out of it after it was already too late. If this sounds familiar, it's because we might be watching the same process all over again. Georges Niang has been untouchable in JB's rotation, nuking lineups and somehow surviving like a cockroach. In Cleveland's recent loss to the Hawks, their defensive rating climbed sky high to 132 points per 100 possessions when Niang was on the floor. In contrast, the Cavs held a much better 93 defensive rating in the 22 minutes Niang was on the bench. Yes, this is a small sample size, but a 40-point difference is absurd, and the lineup data for the full season shows a clear trend. The Cavs are the best defense in the NBA when Niang is on the bench, but that falters to 17th when Niang takes the court. As much as Niang seems like a great guy, it's easy to see why the defense suffers with him on the floor. He's one of the least mobile players in the NBA and stands little chance on the perimeter. And while he has been a somewhat sturdy defender in the paint when officials allow for a more physical game, Niang's lack of verticality, and more importantly, his inability to clean the glass makes him stick out like a sore thumb. You can get away with playing Niang in the regular season, but it won't take long for an opponent to dice him off the floor in the playoffs. This already happened last year with Niang falling entirely out of Philly's rotation once the postseason began. It feels inevitable the Cavs will have to bench Niang once the games start to matter, and it would be maddening if JB didn't get ahead of the curve this time, because a repeat of last year, where he waited until the playoffs to shuffle up the deck, would likely cost him his job. So who should the Cavaliers play in Niang's place? The answer is pretty simple actually. Dwyane Wade has gone from meme-worthy to genuinely impactful bench player, putting it together on both ends of the floor as a switchable, rangy defender who can pull three-pointers at a respectable clip. Wade has found his confidence from downtown, attempting nearly 4 threes a game on 40% shooting. When Wade is feeling himself, he is easily as impactful on offense as Niang, and Cleveland's defense is in the 97th percentile when Wade is on the floor. This is because not only does he have the physical traits of a good defender, standing at 6'9" with long arms and high athleticism, he gets beat off the dribble here, but his length allows him to alter the shot anyway. But Wade also understands how to play help defense almost better than anyone on the team. Watch him sprint from the other side of the floor to stop Maxey in his tracks and force a fadeaway rather than a layup. Wade doesn't overhelp very often, and that makes him a massively impactful defender. He follows Shea through this play and only leaves him once he has a clear chance to strip the ball. Wade is also a great rebounder, putting Cleveland again in the 97th percentile for defensive rebounding when he is on the floor. Compare this to Niang, who tanks them to the 65th percentile, and there just isn't much of an argument for playing Niang ahead of Wade. With that settled, the other issue at hand is finding a way to squeeze Sam Merrill into the rotation. This one is slightly more difficult because there isn't a Niang level player ahead of Merrill in the depth chart. Max Strus, Caris LeVert, and Isaac Okoro are more than worthy of playing the minutes they have earned. And while playing a 9-man rotation in the playoffs is really stretching it, I think the value Merrill brings to the floor is worth it, especially when he is alongside Donovan Mitchell. This duo has played almost 500 possessions together and registers a plus 15 net rating, placing them in the 98th percentile. Mitchell's ability to drive and kick is the perfect cherry to Merrill's off-ball movement. These two play with so much synergy together that it feels like a crime that Merrill has mostly fallen out of the rotation whenever Cleveland is at full strength. But once the playoffs start, you have to find a way to get them paired up together again. I'm no NBA head coach, and I'm not going to break down the exact minutes distribution, but I think cracking this code can be really simple. In the playoffs, you are going to have one of Garland or Mitchell on the floor at all times. The same goes with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. So anytime that Mobley or Allen is on the bench, Dwyane Wade should be playing the backup 4. That's it. Wade plays the entirety of the backup 4 minutes. Maybe you give Tristan Thompson a stint if an energy boost is needed, or maybe you desperately turn to Niang if all else is failing. But in all other cases, it's gotta be Dwyane Wade. As for the backcourt minutes, I would split it up like this. If Garland is on the bench and Mitchell is at point guard, Sam Merrill is the one playing next to him at the 2. Every single minute Mitchell is on the court without Garland next to him, he should be spending it with Sam. And in Garland's case, all of his minutes without Mitchell should be alongside Caris LeVert or Max Strus. You keep those pairings together no matter what, and the minutes will distribute themselves. Lastly, if you're wondering where Okoro fits in this process, I would just give all of the minutes that Max Strus doesn't play directly to Okoro. This should net him a healthy 15 to 20 minutes on most nights, and of course, the onus falls back on JB to decide how much to rely on any of these lineups, because if he doesn't figure it out, he'll be searching for a new job this summer.